Here's the thing no one in Silicon Valley wants you to know. The software companies that spent the last decade convincing you to pay £800 a month for an all-in-one platform are about to get cooked. Not in 5 years, not eventually, now, right now, in 2026. And if you're a developer, a founder, or someone who's been sitting on a vertical idea, thinking, nah, the big boys will eat my lunch, I need you to stay in this seat for the next 10 minutes. Because Gartner just dropped a report saying that less than 5% of enterprise apps had task-specific AI agents built as of 2025. By the end of this year, they're predicting 40%. It's not a trend. It's a tectonic shift. And the gap between those numbers, that gap is your business opportunity. Let me show exactly how to grab it. Cast your mind back to 2015. Someone in a turtleneck gets on stage and tells you their platform does everything. Project management, CRM, HR, invoicing, expenses, customer service, dog walking, and probably for the right tier. And we all went, yeah, all right, fair enough. Because at the time, it made sense. You wanted one login, one invoice, one vendor to blame when it all went sideways. But here's what nobody tells you about all-in-one software. When you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing well. And your customers, the actual humans paying for their subscriptions, are sitting there with 200 feature platform using like 4 of them. Sound familiar? Now enter the era of agentic AI, where software doesn't just sit there waiting for you to click something, it acts. It makes decisions. It completes tasks end to end without you babysitting. The global agentic AI market, valued at around 7.5 billion in 25, and is projected to hit 200 billion by 2034. That's a 34% compound annual growth rate. For context, the British housing market grew at 40% a year. Even a shed in Peckham will cost you £1 billion by 2030. Here's the kicker. Deloitte's research from late 25 found that up to half of all organizations could be putting more than 50% of their entire digital transformation budgets into the AI automation at the end of this year. So money is moving fast. The question isn't whether the market is shifting. The question is, what kind of software wins in the new world? And the answer is not the 200 feature monster. The answer is a micro SaaS, built for one industry, powered by agents, deeply, irreversibly embedded in the daily workflows of your users. And let me break down exactly why. Imagine you're building an AI tool for solicitors, not tech bros, not startup founders, solicitors. The people who charge by the 6-minute increment and have opinions about the Oxford comma. You can point a general purpose LLM at their workflow and say, sort this out. And it will try. God bless, it will try. But here's the problem. A general model has been trained on everything. Wikipedia, Reddit, Threads, someone's deeply unhinged 2009 forum post about medieval tax law. It has vast, shallow knowledge. What it doesn't have is a deep understanding of the Solicitors Regulation Authority Code of Conduct or the specific clauses in UK residential conveyancing that differ from Scottish property law or the current FCA rules that changed last quarter. Context is the moat. When you fine-tune a model or even just engineer it carefully on the specific regulatory frameworks, case precedents, and document structures of a single industry, you don't just get better output, you get something a general LLM simply cannot replicate. And that matters because your enterprise clients aren't just buying software anymore, they're buying defensibility, they're buying that AI that won't get them struck off. Think about legal tech firms like Clio. They serve over 150,000 law firms globally. The firm that builds an agentic layer on top of all of that kind of industry context, that's a product that OpenAI can't replicate overnight because that's where big tech is bad at going narrow. This is your unfair advantage. Go narrow, go deep, build the context moat, and watch the incumbents try to compete with a fire hose when you're operating with surgical precision. Everyone in the AI space is obsessed with the wrong metrics. What's your monthly active users? What's your net NPS score? How many tokens per second? Nobody cares. Well, your investors do, but your customers don't. Your customers have one question, and only one. How much of my job does this thing actually finish? That is ATC, Agentic Task Completion. What percentage of a given workflow, start to finish, does your AI agent complete without a human having to step back in and fix something? An AI that drives 90% of a client report but leaves you to manually plug in the financial tables, that's not a finished task. That's autocomplete with a superiority complex. The agents that win in 26 are the ones closing the loop completely. Think about it. A 25 case study found that developers using AI tools completed tasks 125 times faster than those without. Not marginally faster, more than double. And that's developers, a tech-literate, high-tolerance audience. Now translate that to a 58-year-old solicitor in Shrewsbury who didn't do a coding bootcamp, or an accountant in Stockport whose entire relationship with software involves frowning at spreadsheets. For those users, ATC isn't just a product metric, it's a trust metric. Because every time your agent doesn't finish a task, every time the human has to jump back in and rescue it, you've just eroded a tiny bit of trust. And trust in enterprise software is everything. How do you optimize for ATC? 3 things. 1. Narrow the task scope. An agent that does one thing completely is infinitely more valuable than an agent that attempts 5 things and fumbles 3. 2. Build for failure gracefully. Your agent will hit edges. Design it so that when it hits an edge, it hands off to a human cleanly, with context. 3. Measure it obsessively. Build your analytics around task completion, not engagement. Session time is a vanity metric. Finished tasks are revenue. Can I tell you what the fastest way to kill a perfectly good AI product is? Make it a chatbot. I'm serious. Take all your wonderful vertical context around your fine-tuned intelligence, all your obsessive ATC optimization, and put it behind a little text bot that says, "Hi, I'm Aurea, your assistant. How can I help you today?" Watch it die. Because here's the truth about non-technical users, and this is the most of your target market in vertical SaaS. They don't want to talk to software. They're already talking to their clients, their colleagues, their kids, their partner who's annoyed them while they're working late again. The last thing they want is another conversation. What they want is the work to be done. The winning model isn't a chatbot. The winning model is a background process. Think about how Xero works for accountants. You don't open Xero and chat to it. Xero just connects to your bank feed, pulls the transactions and categorizes them. By the time you look at it, half the job is already done. That's the model. Your agentic tool should be sitting in the background, hooked into the systems your users already use. Xero, Clio, Salesforce, Microsoft 365, CRM. And refuse to change because it works fine. When your agent completes something, a drafted letter, a flagged anomaly, a processed invoice, it shouldn't open a new window and demand attention. It should just put it where it belongs. This is why integration is your competitive advantage, not your UI. The firms that win vertical AI aren't the ones who built the prettiest interface. They're the ones who figured out the API calls that no one else bothered to learn. Alright, now let's talk about the interface you do build, because it matters, just differently than you think. There's a concept in aviation called the monitoring role. In modern aircraft, pilots don't manually fly the plane most of the time. The automation handles it. The pilot's job is to watch the automation, understand what it's doing and intervene when something's wrong. They're steering, not driving. And this is the exact model you should be building your UX around. For non-technical users, your solicitors, your accountants, your estate agents, the ideal interface is not text input, it's an approval queue. Your agent has already done the work. It's already drafted the letter, already calculated the tax liability, already flagged the anomaly in the P&L. Your user just needs to review and approve, or if something's off, reject with a note. Think about how different the cognitive load is. With a chatbot, I need to write a letter to my client, blah, blah, blah. The user is doing the work. With a steering UX, letter drafted, review before sending, the user is managing. One of those models will get adopted by a 55-year-old conveyancer who has no interest in learning new software. The other won't. An adoption, genuine, sticky, daily adoption, is what converts a pilot into a contract renewal. The design principles for a steering UX are pretty straightforward. Show the work, not the prompt. Service the agent's output front and center. Don't make users re-enter information to see what the system did. Make rejection easy. If users are afraid to push back on the AI, they'll either ignore it or rubber stamp everything. Neither is good. Give them a big, obvious, not quite right button, one-tap correction. Explain the reasoning, especially in regulated industries. Don't just show the output. Show a brief rationale, flag this high risk. That builds trust, that builds ATC, that builds renewal rates. Because here's what your data will eventually tell you. The users who understand why the agent made a decision are the ones that trust it enough to let it run unsupervised. And unsupervised high ATC agents are what you're actually selling. Let me bring this back to what it actually means for you. Right now, there's an absurd amount of money flowing into AI, IDC is projecting AI investment will hit 1.3 trillion by 2029, growing at nearly 32% year on year. Most of that money is going to the big players, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, the usual lot. And that's fine. Let them fight over the horizontal market, because the most defensible position in the entire AI landscape isn't to be the biggest. It's to be indispensable to a group of people who can't afford to replace you. Built for one industry. Learn their language, their regulations, their compliance nightmares, and their legacy workflows. Fine-tune your context moat. Obsess over ATC. Hook into the tools they already use. Design a UX that makes them feel like the agent is their colleague, not their computer. And then watch what happens when Microsoft tries to compete with you. They'll release a generic AI for legal module in Copilot. It will do 70% of what yours does for 80% of the industries. For your users, the ones in regulated, complex niche verticals with specific compliance requirements and decade-old workflows, it won't be good enough. It can't be. Not without the years of vertical depth that you've built. This is your protection, not patents, not funding, not growth hacking. Vertically, go narrow, go deep. And the big tech hammer can't touch you when you're operating like a scalpel. If this made you think differently about where the opportunity in AI is right now, drop a comment below. Tell me what vertical you're building in or thinking about building in. And if you want to go deeper on any of these points in the context moat, the integration stack, the steering UX, I'm going to be breaking each one down more in a separate video. Subscribe so you don't miss. Right then, back to it.